There are many tactics that we can implement to drive an immediate improvement in our cold calling results. One of those tactics is to utilize a concept of name dropping when on the phone. Name dropping is essentially mentioning an individual's name, mentioning another business, or mentioning the title of individuals that you may work with while you're on the phone talking to different individuals. There are two different individuals that you could name drop, and you may want to do it in a slightly different way. Let's first talk about when we're talking to a gatekeeper. A lot of our time when we're cold calling will be dealing with gatekeepers, trying to get through to them, trying to build relationships with them. And in order to figure out how to name drop with them, let's first take a step back and try to understand a gatekeeper's mindset and what they're doing in their daily role. First of all, a gatekeeper's main objective, or one of their main objective, along with answering the phone and guiding people where they need to go, is to filter and screen out solicitation calls, to block pesky cold calls from getting in to people that are not expecting or wanting their calls. Ideally, if you're cold calling, your call may be one of the calls that they're trying to screen out. So we must understand that. And so when they answer your call and they hear that you may be a salesperson, their guard goes up and they are immediately trying to figure out, are you a friend or are you a foe? A friend would be somebody that is already doing business with the company, someone that is already somewhat on the inside. A foe would be a stranger, someone on the outside trying to get in. In other words, a salesperson who does not do business with the company, who's trying to get in, and then their guard goes up and they will try to prevent you from getting in. If you get in and you get past them and you end up talking to somebody, it could look bad on them. You must understand that when you're talking with the gatekeeper, as they're trying to do their job as you're trying to do yours. So what can we do to decrease their guard, or to make them an ally, or get them to let us in, or maybe get them to guide us in the right direction? Well, name dropping is an excellent technique to do that. Let me demonstrate how. Instead of saying to a gatekeeper, I need to speak to the HR manager, can you please point me in the right direction? If you know that the HR manager, if you know that Mary Smith is the VP of HR, and instead of just calling and asking to speak to the HR manager, which sounds like a solicitation call, if you say to the gatekeeper, hi, how are you doing? The purpose for my call is I'm planning on meeting with Mary Smith, but before I do that, I need to connect with the HR manager. Can you help point me in the right direction? And by that name drop, you instantly sound like a friend instead of a foe. You're on the inside because you're already meeting with a senior executive, or you've mentioned a senior executive's name. Another scenario could be, we met with Dan Smith last week, and I'm trying to connect with the HR manager to continue that dialogue. Again, language like that is going to decrease the guard of the gatekeeper. Hypothetically speaking, that you may say, well, that's great, but what if I'm not planning on meeting with the VP of HR? What can I do in that scenario? And the great thing about this technique is, if you say, I'm planning on meeting with Mary Smith, but before I do that, I need to meet with the HR manager to collect some information. Can you point me in the right direction? If you listen to that language, at no point do I could use that language even if I'd never even spoken to Mary Smith and I don't have a meeting on the calendar, because in all reality, I probably am planning on trying to meet with Mary Smith at some point. I have all 100% intentions. And when I say to the gatekeeper, we're planning on meeting with Mary Smith, we have not been unethical or dishonest at any point, because that's likely in our intentions as we're trying to sell. So it's kind of a play on words, and it's up to the gatekeeper to interpret that correctly or however they want. But that's one great technique to decrease their guard and get around the gatekeeper. Another instance where you may use this technique is when you get past the gatekeeper, or you actually call the target contact directly. You could name drop to those individuals. Now let's say we find out that the HR manager is Tony Gonzalez, and we connect with him. We could use the same language. Hi, Mr. Gonzalez, or hi, Tony. We're planning on meeting with Mary Smith, in the months ahead, and We would like to connect with you to gather information from you prior to that discussion. We know that you'll have a stake in everything that we talk with her about, so we definitely want to have your take so that we're most prepared for that conversation. Do you have a few minutes? And once again, there, not only did you decrease Tony's guard by name dropping his manager, but Tony's going to be a lot more motivated to give you a few minutes of his time, because if he's rude to you, as he might be if you just call him without the name drop, then that would look bad. If he's rude to you and you are planning on meeting with his boss, then it would look very bad in terms of if that got back to his boss. So you'll almost have an endorsement to push him to give you a few minutes of his time. The other thing you can do when you're talking to the target contact is to actually name drop other businesses. Let's say we are talking to Tony Gonzalez. We could say, you know, Mr. Gonzalez, the reason why we're calling, and you could give him your value statement and share with him the purpose of your call. And as part of that, you could say, and we've helped companies like XYZ Corporation and Tiger Tech in this particular area. We help both those companies to decrease their inventory costs by anywhere between 7 to 10%. In that brief statement right there, you've just name dropped 2 other organizations, and that can help you to build credibility. Another thing you can do is you could name drop titles of individuals. Let's say you do connect with Mary Smith and she's the VP of HR. When you're talking with Mary Smith, you could say, you know, Mary, when I work with, typically when I meet with VPs of HR, we usually discuss this and we discuss that, and we find that creates a very productive conversation. In that brief statement there, I name dropped that I meet with VPs of HR. I name dropped a title, and when Mary hears me say that I meet with other VPs of HR, that gives me credibility that she shouldn't pass me along to push me down to the HR manager, that I normally operate at her level and she's the correct person for me to connect with. Those are just some brief examples of a technique called name dropping. If you start using that and you're not using it today, you could likely see an immediate improvement in your cold calling results. Give it a shot. Good luck.